Hello, I'm Andy and I am a strategist. And I know what you're probably thinking right now. You're probably wondering, is that a squirrel on his t-shirt? Yes, it is. It's a long story. What you might not have noticed yet is the size of my ears. And basically, I'm so old. I've got to that stage where I am shrinking, but my ears are continuing to grow, which is not ideal. But actually, it is pretty useful for the thing I want to talk to you today about, which is the power of listening. It's not going to be a long talk because actually the whole point of it is to say that maybe in our communications industry we spend a little bit too much time talking and we could spend a little bit more time listening. So bear with me. I want to start with culture and how we learn things in the first place. When we're little, we're taught that listening is a really good thing, aren't we? So our parents tell us to listen. When we go to school, we're told continuously of the power of listening and the importance of it. And then maybe if we're lucky enough to have grandparents, they often tell us that fantastic old adage that we have two ears and one mouth and that we should use them in that proportion, which is brilliant advice, isn't it? And the great irony is, of course, that we don't really listen to it because quite soon in life, we also learn about the power of talking, and talking feels a whole hell of a lot more fun than listening. And after a little while, actually, even society chimes in and tells us that we're told that we shouldn't just sit back and listen, that we should say something, and we're encouraged to find our voice and to tell people what's on our mind. And of course, all of those things are really, really good things, by the way, but not when it comes at the expense of listening to what other people, perhaps with other perspectives, have got to say. And I think that really applies to our industry. When I started out in this world, I was quite shy, like a lot of people who are just starting out. And I was always being told about how important it was to say something. And I was that was the big thing that came up in my reviews, that I needed to find my voice more and be a bit more vocal in meetings. And that was like helpful advice. It was a good thing to sort of take on board. But as I've got older, very old, I have realised that this is not a competition to be the loudest person in the room. And actually, the best people, when I look back on all the years I've worked in this industry, the best people have always been not only great transmitters of energy and of ideas, but fantastic receivers and sponges of information and of different perspective. They've been great listeners. And so when I think about my own discipline, so strategy, when I think about all the best strategists, they've not only been brilliant articulators of insights and of ideas, but they found them in the first place. So they have been able to listen to a group of people, let's say in a focus group, and not only hear the things that are being said, but hear the things that are not being said, and to understand what the silences mean. That's an amazing power to have. And they've been able to pick up signals and signs in popular culture and interpret them. They've been able to listen to the data and find the one piece of data that is important amongst all the white noise that is making this shrill din in our society. Or they've just been able to listen to their gut, which is another form of listening that's really important. The point is that they have amazing antennae and that they are finely tuned. When I think about account people as well, the same is true. So account people we often think of as being the jazz hands in our industry, don't we? Which is often true, but I think the very, very best account people are also incredible listeners. So they can deduce and hear what the client is really asking us to do. Not just what's in the formal brief, but what is really bugging them and what is really keeping them awake at night. They can also read a room brilliantly and listen to what is going on. What are the big battles that we should perhaps put our foot down over or have a little disagreement about, and what are the things that are not worth fighting over. They're also brilliant at listening to their own team and to human beings and the different individuals within that team, and to really properly listen to what their personal sort of makeup is, and therefore how to get the best out of them. Again, brilliant listeners. When I think about the best creatives even, so this is the job where we have the Don Draper myth, the rock star myth. It's all about transmit, we think. No, the opposite is true, I think. The really best creatives, while they might be great presenters of ideas, ask lots of questions first. So they interrogate you. They interrogate other outside experts. They ask lots and lots of questions because they realise that until they've properly listened and understood what a problem is, they can't solve it. And they can't create unless you know what the problem is that you're trying to solve in the first place. And the same goes for all the other disciplines in our industry, whether it's the best media people, the best producers, the best directors, the best marketers. All of them are brilliant listeners, not just great transmitters of ideas. And that's because we're in the communications industry, right? We're not just in the talking at people industry, or at least we shouldn't be. And when I think about the opposite of that, when I think about the problems that we sometimes experience in our industry, I feel like the reverse is also true, that they can pretty much always be traced back to poor listening skills. So when I think about why do relationships between agencies and clients go wrong, it's almost always because people on one side or other, or perhaps on both sides, have stopped listening to each other. And when I think about pitches, why do we lose pitches from time to time? It's often because we've read the pitch brief, but we haven't properly listened to what is going to win us this piece of business or make a difference. And when I think about marketers and I think about the biggest mistakes or when things go wrong, it's often because that company has perhaps stopped listening to consumers and perhaps become rather insular in their perspective and only listen to the echo chamber of their own industry or their own company. And right now, when I look at all the problems in the world, the brands are with good intentions trying to say something about. There's such a rush, a trample to say something about the big issues of the day that sometimes brands forget to stop and listen and understand them, and end up saying something a little bit shallow and empty as a result. And I think that's what really bugs me about this, is that if you listen, you're more likely to get to more interesting solutions that actually mean something and do something in the world, not just add to the words in the world. And so, of course, we spend a lot of time in our industry talking about talking. And we ask ourselves some questions like, who should we be talking to? And what should we be saying? And where should we be saying it? And how should we be saying it? And all those questions are really good and important. All I'm saying is that I think we should also spend a lot of time, more time than we currently do, listening, properly understanding who should we be listening to. What are they actually trying to say to us? What are they really trying to say to us? And how can we listen harder so that we end up hearing things that other people have not heard before? And I think if we spent more time doing that, we would not only talk a better game, we'd walk a better game too. So that's enough talking from me. Hope you found it vaguely useful, and thanks for listening.